Hello, hello, hello. Black Bean Samson here today. How's everyone? It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. Hope you all have had a great day, ate well, or going to eat well, open many presents, be surrounded by your loved ones, be with your loved ones. What we're going to talk about today on this is the whole Monsanto, essentially, I'm gonna hit up a couple different parts of this because I want to talk about essentially how Monsanto has grown so big that it's destroying the small farmers, and at the same time they've been making herbicide that has been linked to cause to cancers, a whole bunch of problems to humans. Not only that is causing a problem to the biodiversity, which is now being linked to having poisonous allergies that are causing a whole other problem to the biodiversity that surrounds those bodies of water that the algae is floating in. So, I'm gonna start off right here on the New Republic. They have a really quick, easy, short piece here. I'm gonna read for you, um, by Brooke Chappell. I don't know if that's actually 2 years ago. I read through this and it seemed like it's somewhat recent, but we'll just go through it real quick. Um, the German pharmaceutical company known for the household product such as aspirin and Zectrol struck a 66 billion deal Wednesday to take over Monsanto. They're talking about Bayers here, or I'm sorry, Bayers, like a Bayers aspirin. The notorious agriculture giant. The number of companies controlling our food has gone down from seven just to just four in the last year. Bayer and Monsanto together control $10 billion more than the next competitor. This is the biggest takeover of its kind, and it has consumers, farmers, and antitrust lobbyists worried, and they should. This is ridiculous, and this is where I think when companies get so big, they literally become their own like state, and they have their own state power. The fact that Bayers and Monsanto have had so many cases that are linked to causing harm to humans due to their chemicals and their drugs that they make, and not being honest about the exact makeup of them and what they have done to test them properly. I mean, there's this whole bunch of problems. So, I mean, I'm going to go through it real quick, but there's lawsuits and all their studies showing that this glyphosate, I think that's how you pronounce it, that Monsanto is largely a contributor of with the Roundup. But I'm going to move on here real quick. Monsanto crops are what make our bread, cereal, soy products, you name it. Price of those products could rise with less competition. The companies are also famous for engineering food and pesticides. Together, that may mean more genetically modified food in grocery stores. With a higher risk of pesticide residue, organic farmers and activists worry that pesticides will make their way into organic farms and are concerned about the lack of biodiversity and GMOs. Farmers, because of Monsanto controls the seed market, farmers are stuck paying its price to grow crops. Monsanto and Bayers working together means potentially, I would say potentially, higher prices for farmers who are already struggling against big agriculture. That's what AG stands for. And then antitrust lobbyists. Combined Monsanto, Bayers controls more than 30%. So now them combined together, they control more, or around 30% of the seed market. That's outrageous. That's a huge chunk. The second largest owner, actually, let's go back on that. 30%. If someone had 30% of the blockchain of Bitcoin, that would be a big problem. That's what that means. If you understand blockchain technology and that, I would be somewhat worried about someone having close to 30%. And I don't think people don't have that. I mean, there was at one time in the early, but I don't think that's like that anymore. I think it's too spread out. And I hope it is. It should be. I haven't looked into it for a while, but that would be kind of worrisome. Like you don't want a good companies to have such a huge proportion of a market. The second largest owning controls 18%. The third largest is 9.2%. So those three together combine are over 50%. So those three people can get together and be like, you take care of this area, I take care of this area, you take care of that area, and we'll set the prices like this, and we all profit. That's the problem with these companies essentially buying up the many small companies out there, the small time companies. That I'm fine with I'm fine with essentially a monopoly, but as long as it's not controlled by a government. And in this case, all this stuff, like as a small company, I can't just start up a small company and start genetically modifying my own seeds and selling them on the market on any scale without having the government interfering. That's the problem I feel here. See, it's fine if they want to do this, because then what happens if they do stuff that is against the farmers themselves will just start up their own seed market, and the next thing you know, Monsanto does not exist no more. But because the farmers themselves are limited to how they can make their own seeds or who they can get them from because of regulations and all these regulatory essentially policies that stop them from this, doing this on their own. I mean, this is the problem is big companies, big corporations, essentially becoming their own little quasi government or a branch of the government, and then suddenly they make or legislate laws that make it almost impossible for a small company to ever reach to the size that they get. This is why they'll just buy you out. You know, once you somewhat get a foothold of an area because you're a big family company, whatever it is, or you've been there for the last 50 years, they'll just buy you out. It's just a matter of time, and they'll buy you out by underselling all the farmers around you, and you're better off doing that before you lose out or go under. It's a big problem. So I want to move on here because there's quite a bit to cover here. But so Monsanto gets sued by groundskeeper, uh, and essentially I seen this reward that been dropped from 200 and some $1 million, and I've seen that slightly different too. Has been dropped down from everywhere from 78 million down to, by the looks of it, 39 million. So I've seen that number go all over the place. Who knows? But what's also interesting, this merger cuts out 12,000 jobs. That's quite a bit. It's a huge number of jobs, and they say it's for overhauling and blah blah blah, and they won't finish it until 2021 by the looks of it. But but what's funny is that the San Francisco jurors awarded the 289 million in damage to the former school groundskeeper, who said that his terminal cancer has been caused by the product. The damage were later reduced by a judge by but hundreds of other patients have made similar claims. Monsanto has said the product is safe when used as directed. So this is funny because I'm going to bring this to a whole other thing, like safe to directed. Well, you're not being honest even with that part, Monsanto. And I think if they said this to the judge, they should be more liable at this point. Like they shouldn't even exist. Like you shouldn't be able to buy this company up at all or merge with this company, and Bayers shouldn't be able to for whatever. They got some stuff too, I think, but I'll move on to this one. But the fact that Monsanto has been linked to so many problems, you shouldn't be a company no more. No, a small company, like I'm saying, the small companies would never exist at this point. They'd just be erased. They would have had to sell all their assets to pay for the courts costs and stuff. It's why it's insane. Like how do you as a company this big last this long when you have so many lawsuits, so many things going against you, because you have been linked to so many health problems. It's insane. It's really hard. It's one of those head scratchers. Like who are you paying off? Like, who do you own? Like, it's insane. Um, so we'll move on to this. What I found interesting when I was going through this was that glyphosate. Um, it's something that's found. It's one of the most widely used. We'll just go. Growing research shows that glyphosate is one of the most widely used herbicide in the U.S. and it causes cancer. And it's more problem than that. It's more problem to that. I want to go through this right here. That's the talking about the guy again, which acquired the. His name was Dwayne Johnson, groundskeeper. Jury rewarded him 289 million, but it reduced down to 78 million. So it changes constantly. So I'm not sure what the real price on what the judge dropped it down to, but it doesn't really matter. But the reason why I believe that he reduced it was because well, again, statutory limits, but he knew whole bunch, roughly about 8,000, almost 9,000 other cases are going to come against Monsanto. So to award them that much money, how are you going to reward? It's to reward that many people. At least after this, a bunch of these people can get, something. I don't know what they'll get, but I don't think it'll ever be this much each. That's a crazy rewardment, I think, to be honest. Yeah, even if it was the cause, a few million to pay off the things, give money to the family for the loss of their loved one, like $1 million for the loss of their loved one, to pay off everything for his death and every stuff, like his hospital bills that he won't be able to pay off now, or that he was help paying off, stuff like that, like. And then that's how that should be taken care of, not 78 million. That's a lot. I don't know how you're gonna. But anyways, what was really interesting is that you can find this in so many products: almonds, carrots, quinoa, soy products, vegetable oil, corn oil, canola seed, used in canola oil, beets and beet sugar, sweet potatoes. They're just some of the foods which typically contains high levels of glyphosate. So, and levels of glyphosate in the body of people in some areas appear to have jumped over 1,300% in the past 20 years. I mean, this is nuts. This is stuff that sadly is just not being talked about. Like, we're being subject to chemicals that we've never been subject to as a human race has never been subject to ever. And these are supposedly just be safe, right? These companies just act like this stuff is supposed to be safe. And this is what's just crazy. So researchers also studied whether glyphosate might be a driver of the Florida toxic algal bloom and the similar algae efflorescence across the country. According to the research conducted on Lake Erie, algae blooms in the so-called dead zones of the lake corresponds to the time of the year when glyphosate contains pesticides are sprayed on nearby crops. In turn, human exposed to toxic algae, which regularly kills pets and wildlife, has been linked to neurodegenerative disorders such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and ALS. So this is what I was saying. To the biodiversity nearby, when this stuff is sprayed, it's epidemic. Like the multi levels of what this causes it's just crazy. The only thing that I think we should be using that has not even been close to been linked to this type of stuff is DEET. It's the stuff that supposedly was killing eagle eggs. Well, at this point, if that was the only thing that was being affected, I don't give a damn, because all these things are being way worse than what's happening now. I mean, this stuff is way worse than that DEET. DEET has saved so many people's lives. I would say that was the number one contributor as to why there's so many people alive, and why so many different species of fruit and vegetables are able to thrive too. It's not because of all these pesticides and stuff that we make now. It's the fact that 70 years ago or so, 100 years ago in this country, they sprayed a whole bunch of DEET throughout. killing a whole bunch of insects that carry diseases and viruses and whatnot. And they did that down south, but they didn't do it as much, which is why we're seeing now epidemics or problems of Ebola and Zika virus and all these other weird things happening down in South America with viruses and diseases and stuff like that. So, what's also interesting is that you know we're finding that all the stuff that we're being subject to, it's interesting because PFOA I had to really look up. I didn't really realize this is the stuff that you find in Teflon. So even that is being found being to cancer, and that's something again that you don't find in nature. So it's kind of makes sense on why it's probably causing cancer. It's because we're not subject to it in nature, which means our bodies are not adapt to how to handle such weird chemicals, and it fucks with our genes and stuff. So, anyways, this is the research that they found, the study that came out of Lake Erie, I recommend everybody to go check it out. It's at Ohio sargent.osu.edu.or/news/2009 FEO 52 /research study roundup as possible cause harmful agila. So it's yeah, I would go here, check this stuff out if you're really interested. This is not being talked about. These are things that are just like I said, I don't really hear of them, and I live by the Great Lakes, so and I didn't really know that there was toxic algae in Lake Erie. I didn't know about that. I thought that was all just down on the coast. So they're keeping this stuff silent. I mean, I'm literally only a few hundred miles away from there, so I should have at least heard of something, right? I mean, I'm surrounded by Great Lake stuff, so it's like it's just kind of it's strange that you don't hear about stuff like that, and then when you just come across, why I came across this was a whole their stock prices have dropped, which I'm going to do a quick thing on stock prices. But the stock prices dropped, so I looked into it, and then I came across it, and I was like walking into a rabbit hole. I was like, holy crap, they're having a whole bunch of problems. That's why the stock prices dropped almost down 50%. So I don't check this stuff out if you guys are interested. If you live around Great Lakes, I recommend it. If you feel like you have cancer because of glyphosate or the use of herbicide, your farmer or something like that, working as a groundskeeper, reach out to these lawyers. Maybe something could happen to you for you or something. All right, thanks for listening. Merry Christmas. If you please like and subscribe. If you didn't like this podcast, please still like and subscribe. Comment down below for any advice. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.